Welcome to Soul Rising. We're your hosts, Amy and Erin. We're two everyday mediums who are passionate about taking the woo-woo out of spirituality and bringing it down to earth. So put the kettle on, grab a chair, and join us. Hi everyone! Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
Happy first week back to work and all those things. I was going to say school, but not here in Ontario. Well, kind of. Virtual learning is happening once again in our household. So that's fun.
Did they say when you're gonna be going back to school?
They said at minimum the 17th of January. So I don't think they'll put the kids back in on the 17th. I think we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. I think we'll be a bit, but that's okay. Been here before. We'll get through it. But yeah, that's what's going on in my life. How are you doing? Was your New Year's and Christmas?
Oh, yeah, it was good. Didn't do a whole lot. I was supposed to go down and see my folks in the holidays, but that didn't happen. Yeah. So Christmas got moved around quite a bit.
Yeah.
I did end up going to see them, so that was nice. Afterwards, just to make sure everybody was okay. Did some rapid tests and be extra safe. But it was good. Alex and I went to our tiny home. We rented a little tiny home, which was really nice. We actually brought Ted with us.
Oh wow, that's really cool that it was animal friendly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Did he enjoy
it? We
it?
brought him with us to my parents, and then we went to the tiny home afterwards. He loved it. He loved it because he could climb everywhere.
Because I saw you posted a picture and there was a staircase.
Yeah, staircase going up really to the loft. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was cute. It was small.
Yeah.
That's tiny.
I know. I always wonder how people live in a tiny home. I think if I was a single person, I'd be completely cool with living in a tiny home because really you don't need a ton of space, but some people are have families and stuff. I'm I don't know how you live in a family home. But I guess it's just minimal. You'd have to be a minimalist. You'd have to be.
Yeah, downsize.
You'd have to be. Yeah. But really cool.
My heart goes out to families who have to rent and live in apartments, and that is not easy, especially with lockdowns and everything that's going on with COVID. So this we have a townhouse, but before this we lived in an apartment, and before that a condo. So we did have kids in an apartment, but certainly not during lockdown. But even not in lockdown, it can be overwhelming having kids in an apartment. It's just the way it is for lots of us. And but it was New Year's was great. New Year's was okay. It was good. It was quiet, which was nice. And Ted was great. I'm just happy because that means we can bring him places. Ted is my cat, by the way.
Yes.
People are wondering.
Ted is her cat. Sometimes we have I don't know if Ted's ever come on to the show.
No, I usually have my door closed.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't. I have two cats. One of them is Sunny, and he's the one that's normally around me when I'm doing readings and stuff. But I've posted about him on our Instagram page. He showed up a few times. Not live during a recording, but certainly in the after, when we're working afterwards, for sure.
So cute. So how was your New Year's? And
it was kind of quiet. We didn't really do much. We got out New Year's Eve, and we went outside. We went for a walk outside in the woods and all that stuff, which was nice. And I don't know, the key for my sanity all year, but especially during the winter. I love the winter. I am one of those people that absolutely love the winter, and I think it's because I've learned to really embrace what the winter offers. So as long as I get outside, I'm okay. I don't mind the cold temperatures. So I'm just right now, I'll be honest, I feel this week I've been on the struggle bus. And I think partly it's a bit of the energy. And I can talk about that a little bit more. I talked about it in my stories yesterday if you're following me on Instagram. about my love of Gene Keys and how that like affects this week's energy. That's a story. I don't know if we can get into it or not, but yeah, the energy is a lot this week, and then we've got all these ups and downs and challenges in terms of what's going on. So I've been on the struggle bus, but I know that it's helpful for me to tell people that, because a lot of people are also feeling the same way. I'm just trying to get back in the swing of things and managing
you're not
work.
Alone.
Yeah, managing work and 3 kids doing virtual school and all the things. It's a lot, but like I know that we'll get through it. We've done it before.
Yeah.
We're just tired of it. That's the difference. At the beginning, it was like we were still running on a little bit of adrenaline, and we also, I feel like, had a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel in some way. But now it just feels like, like when, right? I feel like the COVID fatigue is major right now with most of us. But we brought that up last week in the New Year's episode. About some of the guidance.
We did say January was going to be a bit.
Yeah. And even like the focus on the need to like just kind of retreat and respite and rest for 2022. Yeah. And yesterday, when I made some content on Instagram, also the same kind of thing came through about like some top priorities, and I can share them. Top priorities that came through for me yesterday for this year was like boundaries, and how it's actually like the ultimate expression of love to have boundaries, even though we think it's going to like be painful, but it's a gift. Like it's actually loving to set boundaries with other people. Erin's gonna sneeze. Erin's gonna sneeze.
I'm sorry, Amy was sharing something very personally, and I just couldn't.
No, it's okay.
If you saw that on YouTube,
you know when you're like about to sneeze and you're like, I'm going to hold it in, but like you just can't. Yeah, but you held it in.
I did.
It's going to come back.
It went all the way back down. You can actually see it in my face, doesn't it?
Like traveled back down. Just about boundaries and how it's actually, an act of love for yourself, but also for other people. Because so often we we don't set boundaries because we're trying to be nice. And then we kind of can get resentful or feel taken advantage of sometimes by other people.
Yep.
And it's really because we never told them that we're not happy with what they're doing, or we don't like something. We never set the boundaries. So it's kind of unfair, right? So from that lens, you can see how it's an act of love.
Yep, exactly.
For both of you. That was one thing that came through. And rest was a big one, just about rest. And I don't just mean sleeping. Just rest in general.
No, but taking breaks.
Yes,
right?
Yeah. Do you have a 2022 word for the year? Is that something that you do?
Usually I do. I don't this year.
Maybe it'll come to you.
It'll come to me. I've been giving everybody else words and phrases for 2022
in
just
readings.
Within my own readings, but I have to ask. What's something that I could take? Yeah. I like having words for the year and
me too. I changed from doing any sort of resolution, and I just have a word. Something that I shared yesterday is kind of my umbrella goal is, and not just for 2022, but to start implementing it in 2022 is, rather than basing my idea of having a successful day, week, month, year on what I got done. It's going to be how I felt, which totally changes things. So at the end of the night, when I lay my head down to go to bed, if you think about success in terms of how you're feeling, rather than what you did or didn't do.
Yeah.
I just think it would be kind of life-changing.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Right? We live in such a fast-paced society where it's all about productivity and what did you do? How much did you do today? And it doesn't work. It doesn't.
It's not how we're made. We're not made to be like that.
Not machines.
We are human beings. We're animals. Right? We're sophisticated animals, but we are animals. We're sophisticated. In some ways. I don't know what the animal kingdom would think about that. They'd be like, okay.
Sometimes I think Ted looks at me like I'm an idiot. So that's why I'm going to put sophisticated in air quotes.
Yeah, exactly. But like we are, and if we take hints from what like every other mammal is doing,
yeah,
they're not hustling.
oh,
Right?
they're looking at you like, geez, take a chill pill. Yeah,
Take a rest, right?
take
Like
a
lay in
rest.
the
Take a
sun,
rest.
like me, right? So,
Yeah.
and somebody told me yesterday, like literally, this is like if you ever are like looking for business coaching or anything like that, I have somebody I would highly recommend. I'm not going to give her a shout out, but just the business coach that I have. So one thing she said to me yesterday, which struck me, this is the kind of business coach you want. She's not promoting the hustle at all. It's, if for you today, laying in the sun on your couch, being open to downloads and like creative kind of flow or like what comes through, that's work for you today. And I'm like, heck yes, it is.
Thank you.
It is work.
Preach. Yeah.
Preach, right? I'm like, you are amazing. Like, more people need to hear that message.
It's true.
Because we're all like, everybody that's in this course are like working to build their own business. We already have businesses. We're trying to scale it and somehow. And like to hear messages like that, it's like, yes, please. Like, take a Monday. Like when you run your own business, you can set your own hours. So like you could take a Monday off and be like, this is my day when I rest and I read and I learn and I see what comes through.
Absolutely.
And I think that like when you allow yourself to do that, you actually become way more productive.
I was just going to say.
You do, because then the rest of the week,
Absolutely.
the other 4 days, you're like, I'm on fire because you gave yourself that. We're like blocking creative flow by hustling.
I've learned that when, for example, when it's quieter with readings, like I'm not getting as many bookings as maybe I would normally.
We talked about this.
I've learned, that's the universe.
Yeah.
Saying it's because you need a break, Erin.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Every time. It's proven every time. Same. It's like either we're like super busy, booked months out, or it's like, I haven't had any, like I only have one reading this week. What about you? And she'll be like, same. And rather than internalize that and go like, maybe there's something like wrong with us, it's like, no, like it's fine. Like we just need a break. And often something comes up that week too, in which I need to be available for.
Yes, exactly.
So it's just about trusting. I think this really leads into what we were going to talk about today.
I think so too. Oh, do we want to pull a card?
Yeah, you start with the card. We're going to do our card pull at the beginning of this episode, rather than the end, because we are going to do the draw. The draw for the free reading for next week.
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited about it, guys. So excited.
Okay, I'm just gonna see if they can fall. Let's see. Six of Swords. I love this that we got this card actually. This for me. Six of Swords. I'm using the Mother Peace Tarot cards. Which hey, there's two.
Oh wow, interesting. Look. Okay.
They were stuck together. Okay, so we'll go into that one first.
Okay.
The Six of Swords is all about walking away from the BS. Right? Walking away from things that no longer work for you. This, I feel like, ties into rest.
Yes. 100%. And boundaries.
And boundaries.
Right? Yep.
Exactly. Everything
that going against the hustle. About. Yep.
Yeah. Go with the motion of the ocean. Just go with how you feel. And then the Priestess of Wands. I love when I get the Priestess of Wands. First of all, I love the Priestess of Wands in this deck because it's like she's powerful. She's powerful. Look at her stance. Lion,
she's like leading is that a lion or? Yeah, she's like leading him or her. Yeah, she's leading. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's the rainbow. This is just reminding me that there's always the light at the end of the tunnel. There's the rainbow after the storm. The chameleon for me is all about adaptability. So I feel like, this week might be calling for us to be adaptable in certain ways, adapt to the change. But know that Priestess of Wands is within you, that power.
Yep. It's a bit like the strength card, kind of.
Yeah.
Similar?
Yeah.
going against, like, leaning on your inner reserve.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. So wands is all to do with like the fire, right? Fire energy, the element fire. And so fire is all about like what we're passionate about. And yeah.
Cool. So for me, I felt drawn to use the Dragon Oracle. I've been feeling the dragon energy lately.
I need that in my repertoire oracle cards.
You do need this one. Yeah. I added this one in last year because I was wanting to, like, I don't know, I've never been like into dragons or anything like that. And then story time. Last year, as you guys know, I published a chapter in a book, and I intuitively kind of like it downloaded the chapter, like it just like came in. I wrote it down and that was it. There was like no deciding.
I remember because I remember you messaged me and you were like, Erin, it just poured out. I think I did all of it.
Yeah, I wrote the whole chapter in one sitting.
Yeah.
You know, like 4,000 words, just like, it just came out. That was me like channeling, downloading 100%. And then the name kind of just popped in, and I didn't like toy with it, or I wasn't indecisive. I was just like, that's what it was. And I called it Running Towards the Dragon. So the dragon is like my inner turmoil. Like, I named my anxiety and my experience with anxiety the dragon. I've given it a persona. And it's not like I'm scared of the dragon, because I'm running towards the dragon. So I've like learned to embrace all of that as part of me and learn to like take my power back. But after I did that, a friend of mine who's like super into like mythology and psychology said, Amy, do you realize like what an archetype the dragon is? Like, it is about facing your inner demon and like rising above. Like, that's like, I'm getting goosebumps as I talk. That's exactly what it's about. So you're like channeling that collective archetype for us all. So once I started learning that, and now I see dragons like a lot, it's become a spirit sign for me. So when I saw this deck, I'm like, I need it because I need to invite the dragons into my life more. And even the other day, I don't know if you saw my story or not, I got this new book, and in the front like cover of the book, there's like a sketch.
Is this the person that looked like you?
Yes. Did you see that? Did you think that looked like me?
Like you. Yeah.
It was. So I opened the book and I was like, what the heck?
Go check out Amy's Instagram and see.
I don't think it's in my stories anymore, but I'll put them up again, and I'm going to like tag the author in it because I think it's so interesting. But the author doesn't look like me. So this sketch inside the cover of the book is a sketch of the author. Okay. But I don't think she actually, like, I've showed it to a few people, like probably like 50 people responded to that story and was like, oh my God, that looks just like you.
It does.
And then a friend of mine, I showed her the author and she goes, okay, yeah, no, that's a picture of you and like not the author. It looks so much like me. And she's holding this like, almost like she's wrangling, it's a monster, but like when I first looked at it, I kind of was like, I think this is like a dragon. I think it's a little bit more of like a monster, but regardless, the symbolism of her like kind of owning that, because for her, I haven't got through the book, but for her that like is her owning that monster, right? In her, right? And I was like, this is really strange because that looks just like me. And she's like, you know, honing her dragon. Like, that's crazy. So anyways, lots of symbolism and stuff going on this week for me and in the last year with dragons. That's why I got this deck. So the card that comes up for us is the golden orange dragon. And so what comes out about this is essentially that we are on our ascension path. Now, this is interesting because I know I'm a rambler, but a few minutes ago I talked about the energy of this week and how like it kind of relates to the gene keys.
Yes, yeah.
So
so
the current, just really quickly, the current gene key that's in transit is 54. Okay, so they like correspond to different like 5-day chunks all throughout the whole year. So depending on what your birthday is and your birth time, you'll get like your life's work number. Mine is 54 because my birthday is this week. And so I will be experiencing this energy throughout my life, like as a cycle and a lesson. But collectively, we all experience this energy especially during this transit, because this is when it is, right? From the 5th to the 10th. And the 54 is the achiever. And its gift is ascension.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like this pull and this nudge to like be an achiever and to do all the things. But this shadowy part of it is like fear failure. Like, am I good enough? Can I do this? I don't know. But then it's like this inner back and forth tug of war between the achiever who wants to ascend and the human ego was like, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. Right? So the energy collectively, we're all kind of feeling that this week in some way. And for me, I'm feeling that like off and on every day, all day for the rest of my life. I think that's guilty. Yeah. So it's funny that this is an ascension card, and this week the gift of the transit 54 gene key is ascension.
That's cool.
So you can't make that up. That's why I shared that story.
I love that came through. That's amazing.
So we're on our ascension path, right? So we are all kind of rising, kind of waking up a little bit. You're seeing this collectively. People are like, things are changing. All the guidance that Erin and I have been bringing through recently about boundaries and rest and, kind of really listening to yourself. That is ascending. Like, that is the path to ascension. So we're all going through that. We might be feeling that a lot. We might be feeling this tug of war this week between all these big lofty goals and dreams, but then like, I don't know. I don't know if I can do it, right? Yeah. So it says, drawing this card suggested is a time for a push forward on your ascension path. And you're going to laugh because of what we're talking about today. Do you need to meditate more? Do you need to examine or release your old stuff? Or embrace that you truly are, who you truly are, and recognize your magnificence?
Wow.
So this is saying that the dragon, the energy, the higher frequencies will come in and help us. We just have to ask for the help. Another message with asking for help, right? Like it's just crazy. So I feel like this a big time for the week, but I honestly feel like this is a collective thing for us anyways. Yeah, for like longer. Crazy.
Wow. And definitely ties in with what we wanted to talk about today. That's yeah.
Do you want to start? What are we going to talk about today, Erin?
We are going to talk about intuitive development.
Yeah.
Because that has been a question, or Amy, you were saying too, that's been coming up a little bit for you as well.
Yep.
From folks wanting to know how to like tap into that, how to dive into that a little bit more and awaken.
People are asking. People are
ascend.
Yeah, the things that I'm channeling and some of the things that I do, especially the higher self series that I do. It's a lot about this as well. Connecting to your higher self is connecting to your intuitive knowing. So it's like globally, collectively, we're all becoming more aware that this is something that maybe we should do more of, and that we need to. So I just feel like it's something that we all need to spend some more time on, especially if we're called to it.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And I feel like all of our viewers would say that they are, because that's why they're here and they're listening.
Yeah, you're open to this in some form.
Yeah.
So you've already done step one.
You've already done step one. What's step one?
We were talking about like how to maybe we can sort of break it into steps, just to break it down.
Yeah.
To try to like sort of understand it, maybe, if that's helpful. But step one was opening up, right?
That's two.
No, what was step one?
Like intention, deciding, commitment.
Intention, deciding, commitment. Yeah. Sorry. Oh,
that's okay. No, that's okay.
Step one is deciding that this is the path you want to go down, that you're interested in it, that you want to dive deeper, that you want to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, like just setting the intent. Because I've said it a lot. I think Erin said it a lot. This work is a lot to do with intention. You set the intention of what you want to do, of how you want to connect, of who you want to connect with, and that's how it works. And that's also like, it's an intention, but it's also for me, as I'm saying that, it brings up feelings about boundaries, because for me, setting an intention also had me learn to set boundaries, right? Like when it comes to setting the intention to connect to the energy around me, or like just to people that ask.
Yeah.
So, before when I was like open, because like people will often say like, and I even went through this myself too, like, what am I opening myself up to? Like, I'm kind of scared and nervous about that. And I lived that as well. I don't know if you had that experience, but I was nervous about that too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And something that I learned myself through like just working through that fear and still choosing this path was that some of us that are especially sensitive to spirit already are open. Like I was already open. So it wasn't about, like that's how I knew spirit was with me, because I was open. Right. Yeah. So it wasn't about learning to open. It was about setting boundaries with spirit so that I only open when I want to.
Yeah.
But that comes from like setting, that's an intention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Have you ever had this experience? I've had this sometimes where I'm just talking to somebody and I get this like hope that I've got somebody like their loved one with me. And I have to be like, listen, I can't just go up to them. Mm-hmm. I can't Teresa Caputo this and go up to random people and say, I have so-and-so for you. Did you lose this person?
Yeah. No. But you know what? I think she does that for the show. And I would be really curious 100%. If she does that in her own life.
I'm just saying Teresa Caputo.
Yeah, no, because people know that of her, right? Like that's like people. That's what she does. She goes to people in the restaurants and stuff like that. And
but I'm also wondering if, and this is such a sidebar, that if like the people going into that grocery store know that there's going to be something filming. There's like maybe a medium walking around, just so you know.
Maybe,
and,
Yeah, because something I've always like what I would be. First of all, I don't think it's ethical to do that, so I wouldn't do it. But I would be like, what if you approach the wrong person? Like, what if, because for me, like I set the intention with the spirit world that, because I work on word of mouth, you do a lot too. It's like the universe sends us the people that we need. So we don't have to go out like selling ourselves to anybody. People find us. And by doing that, it lets me know that this person's open. Like when they sign up for a reading and they book a reading, they're giving me permission to do what I'm doing. Yeah. And that means that there's a level of like openness and readiness.
Yeah.
You don't know somebody's openness or readiness. So if you approach somebody in the grocery store and you're like, I think I have your mother here, you might get punched in the head. Like, you don't know, right? Like, that person it could be totally against their beliefs. They could be deep in their grief. They could, like, not be open to that whatsoever. They could feel like you are ambushing them, right? Like, it's...
Yeah, there could be different...
Yes, you have no idea. Things. So, it's really... Sometimes when I see how like mediumship is portrayed in the media, I'm like, oh my God, because I'm thinking about people that are sensitive to energy and like developing mediums. And if they're seeing that, they think that that's like what they should do. And I'm like, no.
You think that's it?
No.
Yeah. No, yeah. And you have to, I've even had to, I've had to set boundaries too with spirit, in the sense that I one time this happened to me where I was giving a reading the next day and I felt the energy of their loved one, like, and I couldn't sleep because it was just like, so I had like really a hard time like getting to sleep that night for the reading the next day. And I was like, okay, I have to, I'm like, I feel tired, but I'm okay. Like, we'll get through this. And I think it's because of this energy that's here. And I've had to even be like, guys, you can't come to me like at this time. I work from this time to this time. Yeah. And that's when I even say in readings, like, I'm opening the portal for the duration of this reading. And when the reading is done, the portal will close along with all the energy. And that's just my way to be like, bye.
That's an intention, but also a boundary. Yeah. Right? Because we have to have those. Because if we don't, and we're open to spirit all the time, it's very overwhelming.
Yeah.
Very overwhelming. So like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, how like I only do readings in this chair. So in a sense, I've created like a little portal. I sit in this chair. Spirit's like, okay, she's in the chair. It's time to go. Right?
Yeah. That's true. It's true. I feel the exact same way with different spaces.
Yeah. Because when I'm at this desk and I'm like, maybe like not doing, like if I'm paying bills or something like that, although I don't do any of that at this computer, like I've been really
Oh, that's
strict
good.
about
Yeah.
what I
For
do
you.
here. But yeah, like if I'm sitting here, it's essentially like, more often than not, things just started coming in.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's not always like people's loved ones. I mean, if I was talking to somebody, certainly maybe a loved one would pop in. But for the most part, it's just like guidance and like, it's like these really juicy nuggets, I might call it. I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
where did that come from? Like, that's
Yeah.
amazing. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Things like that. Like last year on January 1st, I wrote down one of those little juicy nuggets, and it was stay in the moment. That's where your power is. That's where your peace lies. And that like just popped into my mind, and I was like, yeah, I feel that. I'm going to write it down. But those are the kind of things that pop in when you're
That's
open
really
and
cool.
you've set the intention.
Yeah. Yeah. When you set the intention that this
Yeah.
is, yeah, what
So
comes
number
first.
one is
Boundaries.
really like, I've made the decision. I want to develop my intuition. I want to set the intention that this is what I want to do.
That's it.
You can have some nerves. That's okay. That's
Oh,
completely
yeah.
okay. But if you're terrified, it's probably a sign you're not ready or
Not
fully
ready.
ready to yet.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you keep being called towards something, as Erin and I both were in our
Mhm.
lives, and you guys probably have been, the listeners, because you're listening, just making that decision tells the universe that you're
Yeah.
ready.
That you're ready and that they're ready to step in it with you.
This is, my eyes keep going to the other side. This is like a sticky note I wrote the other day. This is another juicy nugget that came in. Okay. And it's reminding me of us talking about making the decision and setting the intention. So I wrote down energetically, indecision keeps us in limbo. I don't know if you can see that. So that's like
Yeah.
in all ways. So if you're like, I don't know, like you're not walking through the door. So you're in limbo. So things aren't going to be as clear for you.
No, no.
Just
It's like we talk
make the
about like
decision.
manifestation,
Yeah.
right? Like if you want to manifest that new car, great. It's not going to show up on
But what
your
are you going to do
doorstep
about it to
magically
get
the
it there?
next
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, maybe sometimes
Maybe,
once
but
in a million,
probably not.
right? But
Yeah.
probably not.
Yeah, it's like,
You
like the
have to put
idea of
in the
like
work.
winning the library, not the library. You can tell I love books. Winning the library. Winning the lottery. You're
If
not going to
Amy
win.
won the lottery, she would
I
probably
would buy a
buy.
library. I would. What's funny
Right.
is in another life, I swear, like like we talked about how I went to school to be a psychologist, but something that was always in my mind too was like to be a librarian.
Librarian.
Always, always. I would think I would love that so much. No, but like if you want to win the lottery, you take the action to buy a lottery ticket. If you don't buy the lottery ticket, you ain't winning the lottery,
You're not
right?
gonna, yeah.
You took the action. That's a really good
Yeah.
example of manifest. It's like kind of manifestation in the sense like this is what I want. I got to
It's a
do
step,
something.
right?
It's a step
It's a
towards it.
step
Yeah.
towards it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Taking that first leap. And that's huge. That's not always easy to do, right? So and I think that's a great first step. Just deciding
It's a huge
not
step.
even just with intuition, but with anything that you want to do for yourself in life, taking that first step.
And don't rush it. I mean, certainly if you're like I can be a little impulsive, but I used to think that was a negative thing, but I've learned that the reason that I can be impulsive is because I do have such a connection to my inner knowing, and I feel like I always have. So
Yeah.
when it comes in as like, yeah, like that's a good idea, it 9 times out of 10 it is. So like
Yeah.
I can act.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. It's like I kept thinking about school. Should I go back? And then I kept looking at this autism course and should I take this course? And my friend took the exact same course that I had been looking at. And I was like, we were talking about it together. And, I was like, okay, well, I think I have to do this.
Yeah.
It keeps
showing
popping
up.
out. I keep thinking about it. I keep looking at it.
Yeah.
There's a reason. So, and yeah, I'm happy that I did that for myself. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So decide.
Decide. decide. And then step two, step two, I said it earlier, now I forgot.
Opening.
Opening.
This is the one where most people want the guidance, right? Because they're like, okay, like I made the decision.
How do I open myself?
How do I open myself?
Yeah. And I was even trying to think back, how I opened, myself up to spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've always been, I don't want to say weird, but I think I've always been a kid that's always been fascinated by things that I can't explain, and has just been fascinated by magic in general.
Yeah. I would say the same for myself.
Dress as a witch every year for Halloween. It was just, couldn't get that costume off me. So I think maybe that's part of it. I don't know. But maybe it just was there. And then when my mom was seeing a medium and my grandfather had passed away, all of these things were just like in my face. And I was a teenager and I did these readings for fun with friends because I was like, if she can do it, I can do it. Easy.
Yeah.
Because I didn't believe in it. I was like, everybody can do this. Like, what's the big thing?
I have that thing too because, and Erin and I were talking before we started recording, and we wrote these things down, and it's like we were reflecting back on our past, and it's like I think we were always sensitive, therefore we were kind of always open anyways, right?
Yeah.
And then it was really for us like a little bit the steps were reversed, which is maybe why you started with opening up.
I think so.
And then it was really like just setting the intention. Okay, are we going to do this? Are we going to do this? Right? Because we're already open to it. And perhaps like people that are like just kind of naturally sensitive to spirit are that way, but there are people that maybe are not as, I don't want to say are not as sensitive, but like maybe they just haven't put the puzzle pieces together.
Puzzle pieces together.
Maybe, right?
Yeah, or figuring out, because I think everybody is so different, and I think a lot of this work is figuring out what works best for you.
Yep.
For some mediums, it is meditation.
Yep. It's not for me.
But it's not for Amy, and that's okay.
And I used to judge myself about it, and I used to when I started doing this work, think maybe I'm not as good of a medium because, and I also thought that meditation meant that you had no thoughts, and that is like, and a lot of people are surprised to learn that. Like if I put something out about that, they're like, "Really, you're not supposed to have no thoughts?" I'm like, I think it's impossible to have no thoughts.
No thoughts. Yeah,
I really do.
Meditation tapes that are guided, right? Like imagine this, and like trying to get your focus elsewhere. So.
Yeah, and that certainly would be something that I think Erin and I would both, encourage you to do if you're kind of just getting into meditation and you want to do that. Because sitting down and just going, okay, that's going to be, that's a difficult process, right? Especially if you don't know what is supposed to happen. Like if you're like me and you're like, I'm just supposed to like get into the Zen place and have no thoughts. And then I never got into it. And then I'd be like, oh, I can't meditate. I guess I can't do this work.
Yeah, no, right? And that's not true. Like, I don't think that's
exactly.
True at all. It's just, and meditation can also look so differently. Like, one of my friends got me an adult coloring book. I've been using that. Like, I used to have one, I lost it, but I've since returned to it, and thank God I did, because that's meditation for me.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, because you're really. You're like
focusing on something else.
You're focusing, but it's almost like a little bit like autopilot in a way, so that you are allowing that like logical thinking, rational side to like be quiet.
Yeah, just out the door with you, and you're just
Yeah, we've talked about this in other episodes where, like, meditation could be like getting in your car, blasting your music, and going for a drive. If that's how you get out of your thinking brain, go for a walk, listen to music, dance. Like, some people, maybe they really they kind of get into Zen when they're cleaning. I've actually met people like this. I get into Zen when I'm cleaning. I do not, but I'm speaking for them. I wish I did. But it might be that. And it's just about realizing that there's no right or wrong way. Like we think of mediums. Like I think this is why Erin and I are so like compelled to do like this kind of podcast and put ourselves out there. There's no like right or wrong way to be a medium. A medium doesn't look a certain way or
No.
behave a certain way, you know, like,
Ugh.
because I've even had people, like friends of mine, say that when I started doing this work. They're like, it doesn't surprise me because the things that you've talked about are just like your general like way about you. I can totally see that you'd be somebody that would do that work. But like, you know, you drink beer and you swear and you you know, you like listen to gangster rap and like
You're not all
you dress in
kumbaya.
jogging pants, like you're not right, like you're not
Gotta
at the
love and
drumming
fight.
circle, like what the
Yeah.
hell? And it's like a
No.
medium doesn't have to look a certain way.
No. Oh my God, Amy. I had a reading. This was when I was first doing readings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I booked myself a reading with this medium. I thought, okay, let's just see. I just wanted a reading,
See
and
what happens.
I found her. It's what happens. Yeah. And it was awful. It was terrible because, and I shouldn't have said anything to her, but I ended up saying, well, I'm just looking for some guidance because I do the same work you do, and just sort of wondering what's coming through from spirit. And she goes, well, you need a shtick. Like you need a shtick, like what do you do? What's great about you? Like, you should just focus on one thing. Just do what cards, if you're gonna do mediumship, just do mediumship. Like, make sure you dress the part. I was like, what the heck?
No.
And then this is such a big off topic, and then she goes, okay, so can you give me a bit of a reading? Like, I want to see what you tap into. I was like,
are you kidding me?
I am paying you. It's like, am I going to get my money back?
The nerve.
Anyways, it was a terrible experience. If that ever happens to you, don't run away.
Yes, and don't allow that to taint your experience, because that's not, because as you were saying that, I'm like, she said dress the part and stuff, and I'm like, that's her own conditioning showing, right?
Yes,
that's her
100%.
likely being taught, or like either by example, or actually, I don't know, for
Somebody
whatever,
else that
something,
whatever helped her along. Yeah.
She kind of adopted that role and thinks that that's the way it is.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of these mindsets that we're working against. A lot of people are like, I've heard people talk about like on different like mediumship development on pages and stuff, forums. My family like we're like long history of mediums, but mediums should like never charge for their work. It's actually like inherently wrong and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's conditioning.
That's conditioning. Also,
that's conditioning.
Do we live in a society where we don't need money? I'm sorry.
Listen, if we lived in a society where you could pay me with your smile, I would be happy to take it.
Right.
If your smiles paid my bills, happy to take your smile. Right? But this is just the energetic exchange. Money is energy.
Money's energy. I mean, we've done energetic exchanges, right? Reading for a reading or something like that.
Yes.
Definitely not out of the realm of possibility.
Because we know that we're giving, we're getting back. Like there's a back and forth.
Here's how I know it's good and it's worth it is because, bless her, she was amazing. I have a few tattoos. People don't know I have quite a few. But she's done some of my tattoos, and there's one on my thigh, and I told her about the work that I do, and she trusted me enough that said, I'll give you a tattoo. You just give me a reading.
Wow, amazing.
Right?
And you were okay with that?
I was, she's given me tattoos before. I knew her, right?
Yeah.
We had been talking about this. She felt comfortable enough. And that was a huge compliment, I feel like, for me, of like, okay, this is...
That she felt what she was giving was equivalent to what she was receiving. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We'll get goosebumps. So,
yeah. No, that's a really beautiful compliment. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what keeps coming through, Amy, too, as we go to number 2, which is openness, and we talk about meditation. I think it's just all about getting out of your own personal thoughts, getting out of your head with it.
Yeah.
It's just about taking a step back and not overthinking so much. And this comes in with what we were sort of talking about repeatedly, is just trusting what comes through. Just be confident in yourself and your abilities.
Yeah, that's all it is.
That's all it is. I always like to tell the story from another medium, Maureen, shout out, where she was sitting down with this woman, and she was giving, all these names. And at the end of it, she got this name, let's say John, for example. And Maureen was in her head was like, she doesn't resonate with any of these names. I am not giving her John. Like, oh, screw off, spirit.
Yeah.
Like, okay. The end of the reading, the woman was not happy, right? She said, well, that kind of sucked. And Maureen was like, I'm so sorry, like, blah, blah, blah. I really wanted to connect with John, who was,
and she did,
my father. And so Maureen tells the story to me as like, always give it no matter what. And I always think that. I always take it with me and say, right? That's why I always tell people, I'm just going to give it to you anyways. It might not make sense, but I'm just going to give it to you.
That happened yesterday for me. I did a reading for somebody, and the first thing that came through was like I saw a bed, and I said, he's showing me like a hospital bed, and so I don't know if like this is usually my symbol for somebody that would have, passed in hospital, or sometimes even at home if they have had a hospital bed. And then what I had written like over and over again, and I didn't say the word, was hospice. And she said, yeah, I actually, my main question here today was he upset that I brought him home, because essentially when I agreed to hospice care, I was agreeing to, stop the treatment because he was suffering, but he couldn't tell me that. So I had to make the decision. Yeah. And the first thing he brought through was hospice. Like, I heard the words so clearly and I didn't say them. I was like, I see a hospital bed, so I don't know if he's saying like he died in the hospital or at home, right? And that's the main thing she wanted to hear, was he was okay with me putting him into hospice. Yeah. And that's an example. Don't ever, anything that comes out, it doesn't have to make sense for you. No. Because that's the first thing he gave me. So there was like no context, right? Normally there's a little bit more of a lead up, but it was just like boom. And I was like,
oh, and I've done that before too, where you're like, I don't. It's like playing charades with spirit. It is. It really is.
Yes, it is. And sometimes they build the story. Like sometimes I can look back at my notes and I'm like, oh, it's like chapter 1, chapter 2. Like they're building a story. They're building upon it. Sometimes it's like boom, 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 and it's like there's no context for us. But I find it's interesting because I've been noticing kind of like a correlation when things come in kind of with like no context for me, and it feels very much like charades for me. More often than not, like the person that I'm connecting to is somebody that can connect the dots, right? So as soon as I say, like they're like, they know exactly, right? So they hear this and they hear this and this, and they don't need me to fill in with the context so that they're sure of what Spirit's saying. Like they know. So I'm just starting to realize that. So I wonder if that's just like a layer of Spirit, like knowing that the sitter has that already, and like they know that they're going to fit it together, and you don't need a lot of context. So it gives me the confidence to just go, you know what, I'm not getting context. It's not a bad thing. There's probably a reason for it. So I'm just going to give it, right? And like they always get it. So
they always get it.
It's just me getting out of my head.
Get out of your head. Try to get out of your head. And I think that's why I feel like maybe some mediums or intuitives are, meditation, because meditation is a good way to
get out of your head.
For some people to get out of your head.
So
to get into the zone.
Yeah, so we wrote down some other things. So for me, meditation isn't always my strongest thing. Although now, like when I connect, so if I'm doing a reading, I sit here, I close my eyes for just like 3 seconds. I take like 2 or 3 deep breaths. And this is the way that I set my intention to kind of like turn off my thinking brain and allow other to come in. And so that's just become a practice now. So I don't have to go through the really big, long opening kind of ceremony. But there's no, if you do, like, that's fine. Like, there's no, whatever works for you. But for me, I had to do like more. So when I was like I said, I feel like we're open anyways. And it was just about learning to become confident and trust in what we were experiencing. So when I was practice is what comes through for me as my main opening encouragement. Absolutely. And I needed actionable things to practice with. So for me, like cards. Okay, so like as soon as I started to figure out that I could do this work, I bought like 3 or 4 decks, and I just started to use them every day. And I would just try to interpret what was coming through from looking at the card. And then after I did that, then I would look in the guidebook and I'd be like, oh, a lot of the same stuff came through. Right? Kind of hid the guidebook from myself at first, and just trusted that whatever was coming through when I looked at the card was actually what the card meant for me in that moment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because cards are just external validation of your intuition.
Yeah.
So when we're pulling cards for you in a reading, we're connected to your energy because you're there for a reading. So when we're pulling the cards, it's with your intuition, choosing the cards essentially.
It's really you. Yeah.
It's you. When we're pulling for ourselves, it's for us. When we're pulling for like a collective message, like we did earlier, we're pulling for all of us, like an umbrella, like a collective message. And so like it might not resonate with every single person, but collectively, like I would say, like the majority would in some way. Yeah.
Exactly.
But this is just a really like tangible way for me, and also it was action, right? So because I struggle with the like the Zen, being quiet, because I'm kind of more hyper, right? So I need to like do.
Yeah.
So this was a really good one for me.
That's awesome. No, I totally agree. Playing with cards,
testing yourself, like just seeing what comes through, and then looking. What else?
I've meditated and then just like, or briefly like meditators try to sometimes, and just like would journal, write things down that came through.
I was gonna say, because I wrote down evidence journal, as well, and that's something that I think that you're talking about too, like in terms of like what would come through when you're meditating.
Yeah.
But to take it a step further, I sometimes advise people to like write down those little random things that come in, whether it's like a spirit sign that you keep seeing, or some sort of nudge that keeps coming, like something's like telling you to go back to school, right? Like it just keeps coming up, or it can be a dream, or like whatever it is where you go, like whatever makes you stop. Yeah. You don't have to try and make sense of it in that moment. If it doesn't immediately make sense, leave it. But write it down. Write it all down, because what will happen is like in a month or 6 months or a year, you're going to like reflect and look back, and you're going to be like, that totally makes sense. All of this makes sense. And then you can use it as evidence that your inner knowing, your intuition was giving you hints like 6 months ago about something that's happening right now, or something that you just made a decision about. So what that ends up doing is creating, it's evidence of your connection, and then you get more confident in it. And then you may start to kind of practice with it a little bit, test it. So you're like, okay, I just got this hit. I just got this intuitive hit about this. I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to wait 6 months for more validation. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
That's the trust piece, right? And then like seeing how that turns out. So I think like showing yourself evidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is extremely validating, I know, for me.
Huge. Well, and do you want to, because you were sharing the dying story with.
Oh, yeah. So that wasn't an evidence journal per se, but it was me documenting evidence. So after my dad passed, talked about in a previous episode how like he came to me in my mind's eye right before he had passed, and I wasn't there like in the hospital room. I was in a different province, but I was on the phone and I could like see in my mind's eye what was going on. So he came to me that way immediately, but then after that, in like the weeks afterwards, even like it was a full year. It was almost it was a calendar year. It was probably about 13 months. Okay. After he passed, that I realized I was a medium, that I really, really realized and felt confident in it. But 13 months passed. And in those 13 months, I kept finding dimes. Like inside my boots, behind pictures on the wall if I took them down. Once we went for a walk on a frozen lake. Okay. And I was like 1 kilometer out on the lake. And I was wearing my dad's boots. Which my mom gave to me after he passed. I think I told this story. They miraculously fit me, even though we don't have the same shoe size. Try to explain that one. And I'm wearing his boots, and I thought about him, like kind of like, I'm wearing your boots, Dad, I'm on an adventure. And I looked down, and there was a heart shape hole in the ice and a dime next to it.
That is so...
How is a dime? First of all, like a heart-shaped hole, okay, like that's really random. Like, why is there a hole in the ice under, like, I look down to look at the boots and it's there. And also, why is there a dime there? Right? But things kept happening over and over again. And what ended up happening? I never felt any doubt about or apprehension about sharing. I don't know why. I just was like, I need to share this. Yeah. So I started sharing every time it would happen on my Facebook profile, like on my personal Facebook. And I'd take a picture and be like, and I'd use the hashtag Dad's Dimes. And every single time it would happen, I'd share. Yeah. And I knew that the spirit world liked the fact that I was sharing. It was just a feeling. And the more I shared, the more it happened.
Yeah. Which I just think that's such a great example of, well, that's evidence for you, right?
Yeah.
But also, like, when we talk about things and share with people, the more we, create that openness, the more we create that connection.
That's us taking action. Like, that's showing the universe. That's, first of all, you've made a decision. I'm going to share this.
Yeah.
This is important to me for some reason. I feel compelled to share it. Mm-hmm. I've made the decision. I'm taking the action of, because opening up is an action word, right? Yeah. So I'm doing something. I'm sharing it with somebody else. Yeah. I'm not afraid of what somebody's going to say about it. I'm not afraid of judgment. I'm just going to do it.
I'm just going to do it.
And it's almost like proof in a way for the spirit. Well, like, this person's ready.
Yeah.
She's listening to what we are saying, right? So I think a lot of it is that too. Because like we've talked before about, in like, for me, I've had like a handful of readings. Most of my readings, the people are like super duper ready to be there because they've signed up. So they're ready. They're open. Everything flows. Because the sitter is really the most important part of this three-way conversation. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And so I have had, like, even in the last couple of months, I've had somebody that like thought she was ready. But then in the moment of being with me was like so overcome with like fear. So it wasn't nerves, like, oh, I'm kind of nervous, excited to see what happens. It was like, I'm terrified. And the messages didn't flow as well because the spirit world knows this person isn't ready. Like, we can't just give her all this because she's just, it's going to overwhelm her. It's going to scare her. So, I told the story of that reading actually, and I had offered to reschedule, and she was like, you know what? Like, I know, like, I feel like I'm supposed to be here. So can we work through this together? And I was like, okay. So like, we did some like relaxation, meditation kind of stuff. I told her a bit more of my process, so she was completely understanding everything that I was doing and what I was connecting to, and my boundaries with what I connect to. And then something happened, and it was like just the floodgates opened and everything came in very. Yeah. But that's an example of what might happen for an individual that thinks they're ready, but there's still some sort of underlying block, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's when the person's like, I get some stuff, but then it's not fully there. It's almost like you're in limbo a little bit. But I can promise, and I feel like Erin can too, like the moment that you like step on the other side of that and you're fully trusting, it's just like, it flows in. It's magic. Yeah. It's magic.
Oh, it's wild.
It's wild. Like, and even we're like, everything. What just happened?
Yeah.
Like, did we just do that? Like, did that just happen? Right? Because it's something that it's not coming from us per se. It's coming through us. So we're like the channel for it. It's a very like indescribable kind of feeling.
It's getting to feel the love that's over there from people's loved ones, and just the spirit, right? The universe. You get to feel all that love pouring in, and that is beyond words. There's
beyond words, beyond love that you can imagine.
I'm like tearing up thinking about it. I've had some instances where I like genuinely have felt like I got a really big hug from that person's loved one.
I have too. That actually, I had that happen yesterday with that person that I brought through about the hospice.
Really?
He was like very, I'm not going to like give details like to identify the person. Nobody would know anyways, but he was very charismatic. And I was like, was he kind of like almost flirtatious, but like not like anybody would think
Yeah.
like, oh, this guy's flirting with me, but like
Not in
just
a,
so like warm and endearing and charismatic. And she's like, yeah, that was him. And I was like, it's, you know, he's kind of like, I'm hearing like honey and sweetie and all these things from him. Like he was just so happy that I was doing this for him, and he was so sweet to me, and I was just like, oh my god, he's just I just want to cry. But then
right?
a big thing for me is when animals come through. I cry almost every time an animal comes through. An animal came through in that reading, and it's a living animal. So the loved one brought through talking about the living animal and what some things that the animal like does and how it behaves, like even specific enough to say like that dog sleeps on his side of the bed and lays his head on his pillow, and she's like, yes, he does.
Oh my god.
And I was like, I just can't, I'm gonna lose it, I'm gonna cry. I felt like I was gonna bawl my head off, because that dog, like her loved one in spirit made me feel how much that dog loves her. And like she is that dog's whole life purpose. And I'm like, I can't handle this like amount of love. I'm going to lose it. Like that's the whole dog's life purpose is her. And I'm like, this is just beyond. Like I'm like tearing right now talking about it.
That's what it's about. Like that's what it's about. Is about, right? It's connection.
It's connection and it's love and it's showing that you're loved and you're cherished and you're valued and you're just adored by the universe. And I think the reason we're so passionate about this and sharing this message is like, I don't want to hold this for myself. I want everybody to have this. I want everybody to feel what I feel like when I connect to people in spirit.
That's exactly it. That's it. I want that.
Imagine
that joy and that like.
Imagine though, if everybody did, how different life would be. Because the root of like all negative things in this world is like not feeling loved, not feeling like you belong, not feeling like you have a purpose. Yeah. And if you could tap into the energy of spirit, you would realize that none of those things are true, and you would be so empowered. Exactly. So empowered just to move forward.
Just to move with it.
Yeah, like when you said the motion of the ocean, it made me laugh, but I'm like, that's it. It's like just going with the flow. It's like life is not going to be all smooth sailing, because what would be the purpose of life?
Yeah. It's easier to jump in the pool than it is to get out.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I don't know, because sometimes it's hard to get in because it's really cold.
Sometimes it is hard to get in,
But, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, so like those things, like we said, talking about it. So that's like for the example with me sharing my dimes, right? That's like kind of just opening the dialogue.
Yeah.
Learning. So like maybe like listening to things like this, reading books, watching certain kind of documentaries or whatever because you're interested. It's a way to learn, right? Expand your
it's a way to like open your mind.
Yeah, right? Awareness. Yeah.
Open that door a bit.
Yeah.
And I had something else, so now I just forgot about it, but keep going.
No, I was going to say another thing we talked about was finding like-minded people. This is something I hear from a lot of people. It's actually the underlying reason why I changed my business name from like my name to the Intuitive Rising, and that's because I want to create a community, like eventually I'm getting there, for people that like are like that, just are interested in this or feel called to this and just don't understand it or need guidance, or the power of like-minded people coming together in a group is just like unbelievable. So I want more of that too. Like I want a safe space for people to go where they can just kind of like learn the basics and not become overwhelmed Because
Yeah.
if your perception of like somebody that like does this work is like has to do yoga and like burn sage and burn what's the other one, incense, and like
Incense,
wear these
cow's
big
fat.
like
Yeah, yeah,
beads
yeah.
and have all these crystals and everything, like those things are wonderful if that's who you are. But you, if that's not who you are, you don't have to do any of those things to be spiritual or a
No, you
medium.
don't have to change
You don't have
yourself.
to change anything about yourself. No.
You just have to be yourself.
That's it. Yeah.
You're going to connect with the people that need to connect with you. That's
That's it. And you know what? Tapping into your inner knowing is you giving yourself permission to be yourself. Because a lot of things fall away when you learn
mm-hmm.
to connect to your intuition and to trust it. You take off the mask. There is no facade anymore. There's no point to it. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, there's just
Yeah.
no point. It's like I'm not forcing anything with anybody.
No.
I feel like for the most part I can get along with just about anybody, but there are people that just I'm just kind of like like maybe not, and do not anymore judge myself for that, because I used to judge myself and I'm like, why am I being such a bee? Like, why don't I like that person? They didn't do anything to me, and I would certainly be nice and civil and polite, but I don't have to invite them to my house.
No.
And learning that was okay, and that's probably like my own intuition protecting me from something.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Right?
The facade fell off. That's why I say I'm a people pleaser in recovery. A people pleaser is when you feel like I must do this for someone, like there's something wrapped up in it, like my sense of worth or self-love or anything like that is tied up in what you can do for other people. And then when you can't do it, it's like, maybe I'm not worthy, maybe I'm not lovable, because if I can't do all these things and make all these people happy, then who am I? Yeah. Right? So a lot of this work can be like uncover. It's sometimes it can be challenging and difficult.
It's uncomfortable, and it's because
you're seeing through all your own potentially you're seeing through all your own BS.
Yeah, you're pulling back all the layers,
and you're like, oh my God,
not your fault.
I am my own worst enemy.
Yeah.
Yes, I have been my own worst, and that's a hard pill to swallow, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
When we talk about people pleasing, when I really clued in that I was a people pleaser, and actually when I learned that people pleasing is a form of manipulation, I felt like I wanted to cry. It was like hard. It was traumatic. I'm like, are you serious? Because for me, I was conditioned, and I think a lot of us, like, I don't want to stereotype, but I feel like a lot of women in our society have been conditioned to be more of that people pleaser, right? Like the woman who stands her mind and who speaks her
behind.
Right. The women who like say absolutely not and are powerful and like will not back down. Mm-hmm. What are they? They're like they're bees, right? Like people are like, oh, she's such a why? Yeah. Why is she? Because she knows what she wants. Like, why is that so?
I said that, yeah.
Why does that bother you so much? But like once you like see through it and you're like, oh, so there's actually like something underneath here. Like I am so freely giving of everything because I want somebody to see me like I see other people. I want somebody else to be like that caring and giving to me.
Yes.
But you know what? That person is a different person and they might not be capable of being you. It doesn't mean that you should like not be respected and cared for by other people, but not everybody is going to like love the same way that you love.
Not everybody's for you.
Right? I know. And just learning that. And I was like, because of this person that had said this to me was like, you can't expect you from everybody else. And I was like, holy crap. You're right. Right? Because then you build up some resentments because you're like, well, I did all this and like, I feel like I didn't get anything back. And it's like, probably there's some boundaries that need to be happening here with me and with the other person.
Yeah.
But also like, I can't really fault the person because they're just being themselves. And I didn't ever tell them that I wasn't okay with it. Right? Like so many misunderstandings and things stem from people just not being real with each other.
You hit the nail on the head, Amy.
It's true.
It's true. It is.
So let's move to number 3. We talked
I
about,
forgot there was a number 3.
yeah, and then we're gonna do the draw.
Then we'll do the draw. Yeah. Oh, right. Oh,
I'm so excited. So number 3 was
Right.
just about building on all of that.
Yeah.
Just
Keep
consistent.
growing with it.
Continue, consistent. Be
Find
really
what works for
intentional.
you.
Yeah. Find
Yeah.
what works for you. No judgments.
Nope.
What is it that makes you feel in your Zen space? Is it cooking?
What raises your vibration?
What is it? Is it dancing? Is it cooking? Is it singing? Is it meditation? Is it going for a drive? Anything goes. What is it?
Anything.
Yeah.
Anything. Yeah.
And then like just practicing and being intentional about it. Remember, and indecision keeps you in limbo. So like just making the decision, doing the practice, and then rinse, wash, and repeat.
Yeah.
Over and over.
Over and over again. Practice if you want to develop your own, if you want to do something similar that Amy and I practice with like friends.
That's what I had to do. I practiced for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, doing practice readings for, and like my Facebook page that I have now is like my original, my OG Facebook page for my business. And I created it when I started to feel like I could do this. And I liked, people that were friends and family started to like it and follow it. And then I was just like, hey, I have some time today. Does anybody want a reading? And I just did that for months until I felt like, okay, yeah, I'm confident that if somebody books a session with me that I can deliver. I was just as good in the beginning as I was when I started to take on clients. The only difference was that I learned to trust myself and I felt confident. So
that's exactly true. That's that's the same for me.
So like don't judge yourself or think like there has to be a certain amount of time.
No.
I think it's important to like have a good grasp on the ethical side. So because of that, it might be important for you to like read or take a course if you feel called to take a course with somebody that teaches that kind of stuff, because it's important that we talk to real life mediums, right? So we don't base everything on like social media, like we talked about the Long Island medium, like where you might go, oh, maybe it's okay to do that, right? Whereas most working mediums, like I would say like 90% of them would say like, no, we do not do that. And they would teach you that, right?
Yeah, exactly. The importance of ethics, but that's, boundaries with spirit, with people, knowing, making sure that they understand your process and how you work.
Yeah.
They understand the messages that are coming through, that you make room for maybe questions or anything that they need clarification on.
You create a safe space.
You create a safe space. That's you like, what would you sort of like to see for yourself?
What would you need? Yeah.
What would you need to, if this was your very first reading, or, if it was your first reading with a medium, what did that medium do to make you feel so supported and safe?
Exactly.
And you trust. Yeah.
Yeah. I always say in the beginning of a reading, like I quickly explain my beliefs about energy and how you can explain mediumship, because everything's energy. Therefore, the energy of that person remains because energy cannot die. And so I kind of explain that it's nothing like spooky or anything. I'm literally just like connecting to energy. I'm just the energy sensitive person. It just is. And so that kind of takes some of the spook out. And then I always say, I want you to know that this is a safe, judgment-free, completely confidential zone, and that nothing will be shared outside of this reading unless I ask and you give me permission. Otherwise, no. And I think that helps too, because sometimes some like private stuff can come through, but if it does, it's because the person is right, like needs to hear it and is open to it.
Open to hearing it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I trust in that. I trust if something comes through that it's meant to come through, and the person will be okay with it. And if it does, I'll often go like, so something about health is coming through. Are you okay with hearing about this? And then I also preface by saying, and just so you know, I never connect with health in terms of like a warning or anything like that. It's more like something in your body that you're probably already aware of, and it's to validate it, right? So something like that came recently, and I said, I see like the like a body shape, and the stomach is like lit up, so it makes me feel like a lot of churning and stress, and like that's where I keep stress. Like this is what was coming through, and I said, so do you keep stress in your belly, or do you have like, you know, an upset stomach? And she's like 100%. But it's stuff like that will come through to validate. But nothing like, oh, I think you will die in 2 years, like, or you're sick, or no, nothing like that would ever come through. Okay, are we ready to draw?
Yes. Oh, yes.
So I am going to take a video of this so that I can post it on our
social medias.
Yeah, on our social media so that you can see how we went about this. So, oopsie.
I have the spreadsheet open.
Yeah, so we've got, just really quickly so I can keep people's confidentiality. There's a spreadsheet here. There's a spreadsheet here with everybody's names. So there's 77 entries. 77. And then
77. What a magical number.
I know. And then here we put 1 to 77. So we're going to generate an automatic number. I'm going to do this on the video. And then we'll see whose name corresponds to that number.
Woo!
Okay, we got 31.
31?
Who's 31, Erin?
Oh, I've got it. It's taken. Marguerite
8. You have a reading with Erin and I.
Woo!
Next Friday.
Next Friday.
Amazing.
Yeah,
so Marguerite, we will post that and tag you and all those things. So next Friday's episode 11, we will be doing a live reading with Marguerite.
That is so cool. So that's
exciting.
That's actually really great, right? Because that's a good chance for even the live readings that we do. It's a good chance for people to sort of like see how we give readings and what it's like.
What it's like. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Awesome episode. So excited for you, Marguerite. And we hope you have a good week. Remember, ask for help this week if you need it. Prioritize, lessen your load. Rest if you need it. Feels like kind of a downtime week.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll see you next week.
Bye. Bye, you guys.
Bye.
If you like what you're hearing, don't forget to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast and tune in each week as we dish on all things spiritual.